nice not to be 100 degrees at 10 o'clock in the morning, didn't it? Nice little cool weather. Hope it sticks around for us. So we've been talking about getting connected. And so we used the analogy of this lamp sitting here. And it was real funny. My daughter, I don't know if you guys noticed, my daughter takes my sermon and puts it down to about a 2-minute kind of clips. And so she's been enjoying doing that for us. So she was watching the sermons, and I'll be honest with you, part of the reason why I do that, and of course she'll hear this now, is so that she'll listen to my sermon, because she lives up in Greenville, and so I can't make her come down. She's an adult now, and she's adulted, as she says, and so I thought, well, this way I'll make her listen to the sermon every Sunday. So, but she loves doing that kind of stuff, so if you ever want someone to do something like that for you, she would be happy to charge you for it and do it for you. But she told me, she said, you spent 25 minutes talking about that lamp? And I said, really? And she said, yeah. She said, I was going through it, and I was skipping through it, and she said, so my friends were like, what is going on with the lamp? Because all they would hear was something about a lamp, and then nothing, because she would fast forward it, and then they'd hear something about a lamp, and she was like, what's going on with the lamp? She said, oh, my dad, he's just talking forever about the lamp. And so I had to explain to her that, there's things that I was doing, and she can't see you guys, and she can't hear you guys. And I said, so there's interactions and questions, so sometimes it takes longer. But what we talked about is how the lamp, and I'll try not to spend 25 minutes again, but how the lamp represents us. And even though the lamp, when turned off, unplugged, was still created for a specific purpose. It still had a job that it was created to do. And it's up to us to take the lamp and plug it in and then turn it on for it to serve its purpose. Otherwise, it's just a dust collector, right? Otherwise, it's just sitting somewhere and it's collecting dust. It actually has a specific purpose. And without it serving its purpose, it's basically useless to us. It may be pretty, it may not be pretty, or what have you. And that's kind of how it represents us, that unless we're doing our purpose, we're just sitting around collecting dust. We're not really functioning. We're not really doing anything. But we found out in order for this lamp to actually work, we had to do two things. First thing we had to do was plug it in. And we said that the power strip that I had here represented the church. And the reason why we said that is it had multiple areas in it where multiple people, multiple things could be plugged into it. But for it to work, it had to be plugged in to the power source, which we know is God and Christ as our power source. So the power to make things work come from God. The church plugs into that. We plug into the church, and then we have not only a lamp, but the lamp now serves its purpose. And when activated or turned on, the light of God actually shines. Does that make sense again? Am I under 25 minutes? Good. All right. So we'll try not to stay with that again. But that's important to keep that in part of your memory of how this thing works with the connection. And we talked about last Sunday about how God created us to be connected. Just like man created the lamp, he created the lamp to be connected to a power source. God created us to be connected to each other and to be connected with him. We also talked about how we're protected through that connection. How we're protected. We're protected from the enemies, and we talked about how God uses that connection to support and encourage each other. We lift each other up. We protect each other from things that are happening. If there's something you're struggling with, you put yourself with someone that's not struggling with it so that they can help you get through that they can protect you by saying, hey, you know what, brother, you really don't need to go there. That's not a good place for you to be going. Versus the person that's going to say, yeah, let's go. We'll be fine. You want the brother that's going to say, no, let's don't go. So we're going to take it a step further, and we're going to continue, and this will be the last part of our the value of being connected. And our verse that we're using is in Romans 12, verse 5. And it says, so in Christ we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. So it's the second part of that that's really what's important for us is form one body. So we form one body. Each member of that body belongs to another. So each of you here, if you look at yourself for a second, just take your hands and put them right in front of you. The first question I have is very simple. Whose hands are you looking at? Are you sure? Those are your hands. Okay. So we've identified that these things in front of you, your hands, belong to you. How many fingers do you have on that? And it's not a trick question, so don't say, well, the thumb's not a finger. How many fingers? You still have a nub. How many fingers do you have? You can have a percentage if you'd like. How many fingers do you have on your hands? You have 10. 5 and 5. So these things here are considered fingers, but this whole thing is considered our hand. This hand is considered what? Part of our body. Right? So even though they're individual pieces, they're still our body. It's still ours. It's still me. So if you see a hand laying on the counter, you know that that's your hand because it's yours. Right? It's connected to you. If you see one laying there on the counter and you're not there, and it looks like your hand, you've got another problem, right? It's like, what is my hand doing laying there and I'm over here? But this is what it's trying to say is like, even though we are individuals, this finger is different from this finger. You don't believe me? Go to the police station and ask them. They'll tell you, this finger is different from this finger. This finger is different. These fingers, every finger is absolutely different, but they still are connected to my body. It's still my fingers. God says, look, I've created you that way, that each of you are individual, each of you are different, but you form the body of Christ. You form the church. You form what God has created here on the earth, and we have to function together. Now, I will tell you, if you take your thumb, cut it off, and put it where your nose is, and put your nose where your thumb is, things aren't going to work very well, are they? Because the thumb nose does not work good at grabbing things. And then, of course, you're going to smell everything with your thumb, so you're walking around doing this, trying to smell stuff, and your face ain't going to serve a purpose. Everything has to be where God intended it to be for it to function properly. You have to be where God intended you to be for you to function properly. Does that make sense? All right. So what are 6 steps to going deeper, to being connected? So it's easy to say that all you have to do is plug into the church. Well, what does that mean to plug in? Well, you have to go deeper to that because it's not as simple as just putting the cord in, right? Because there's things that has to happen. I have to actually hit the switch on the lamp to make it come on. I have to make sure there's a bulb in it, and the bulb has to be alive. The bulb has to be working. Otherwise, things continue to break down. So there's 6 things we got to do, 6 steps to going deeper into being connected. And I think you guys are going to find this interesting. The first thing you have to do is be courageous. Be courageous. Now, I just want to take a second, take a sidebar real quick. There's a difference between being courageous and being a bully. Do you understand that? There's a difference between being courageous and being a bully. What's the difference? What does a bully do? How does a bully function? What does a bully use? Intimidation, fear, force. What else? Domination. Their whole purpose of a bully is to do what? Meet that bully's needs. Get what that bully wants. Maybe it's, I want to feel better about myself, so I'm going to make you feel bad about yourself because that makes me feel better. Or maybe I want more than what I have, and I see that you have something, so I'm going to bully you to get you to give it to me. So there's a difference. What's courageous? Walking through the fire of fear, or setting the fear aside, not acknowledging the fear. Doesn't mean you don't have it. It just says I'm not acknowledging it. I'm not being paralyzed by that fear. So there's a big difference And so I want to make sure we understand that there's a difference between being a bully and being courageous. And sometimes Christians become bullies instead of becoming courageous. They're going to bully you into salvation. They're going to guilt you into salvation. They're going to guilt you and bully you into doing the things that they want you to do, whether it's in the church or at home, or whether it's in your family. There's a difference. So let's look at what Timothy, in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. He says, For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. So another word for timid, let's use the word afraid of people. Afraid of people. So it does not make us afraid of people. And for the word power, let's use wise and strong. So God gave us does not make us afraid of people, but gives us wisdom and strength, love, and self-discipline. See, we got to be like afraid. We did a series a couple of years ago called, was it How to Tell People About Jesus or something? What was it, Sean? Sharing Jesus Without Fear. Sharing Jesus without fear. And we did that for a reason. Why? Because the number one reason why people won't tell people about Jesus is because they're afraid. Afraid of what? What are you afraid of? People. That's what you're afraid of, right? I'm afraid of people, so I'm not going to tell you. I'm afraid you won't like me. I'm afraid you'll make fun of me. I'm afraid you'll laugh at me. I'm afraid of you won't be my friend anymore. I'm afraid of people. So we did this whole series about, hey, how do I tell people about Jesus without being afraid? And you know what the true reason why people get afraid? They're afraid of failure. They're afraid of failure. And I'm going to tell you real quick, and this is a slide bar, but I'm going to tell you real quick that what we've learned, if you really understand who Christ is and understand your place and your purpose, is you have absolutely no ability, no power to save anybody. You have no power to save anybody. Only one person has the power to save, and that's Christ. You don't have it. So your fear of failure should go away because you can't save anybody. But you do have the responsibility to tell them about Jesus. What they do is now on them. What you do is on you. And what's on you is the responsibility to tell. What's on them is the responsibility to hear and respond. So we've got to be courageous. We've got to say, look, it's okay if you don't like me. It's okay if you're mad at me. It's okay if you never speak to me again. I'm still going to tell you the truth. You've heard me say before from the pulpit, and some people have heard me say it to their face, don't make me choose between the truth in God and our friendship, because you will lose. The end result is I've lost friends. And I have to be okay with it. Do I like it? No. I hate it. Do I mourn the loss of my friendship? Yes, very much so. I miss them. I still reach out to them and say, how are you doing? I miss you. But I have a responsibility to tell the truth. And I have to be courageous to do that. I can't be afraid of people. I have to be wise. Where does my wisdom come from? My wisdom comes from Christ. I have to be in prayer, talking to Him. Hey, how do I handle this? How do I do this? How do I have this conversation? And we'll talk about that more. The only thing that fear gives us, the results of fear, is defensive, distant, and demanding. I've had this conversation with Sean throughout the years, and hopefully we won't have it again, but we talked to each other about conflict stuff. And I only said that not because it was conflict between us, but if I have a conflict, a lot of times I'll talk to Sean. If Sean has a conflict, a lot of times he'll talk to me. And so I said, hopefully not in the near future, because I hope he doesn't have any conflicts, and I hope I don't have any conflicts. We will, but I hope we don't. But one of the things we talk about is if you come to somebody in love, and you start telling them, hey, you know, I prayed about this, I've talked about this, however you start your conversation, you say, look, God's laid on my heart that I need to talk to you about such and such. If that person immediately starts to grab stuff and throw it at you, they've now become defensive. They're now working out of fear. What Sean and I have discussed over the years and decided is conversation's done. Why is it done? Because we know they are not ready to receive the words of truth. They're not ready to hear it. Because now they are defensive and now they are attacking. Now, it doesn't mean what they're saying is wrong. It's just that's not the conversation right now. Doesn't mean that they didn't need to have that conversation with me. It's just they chose the wrong time to have it. If it really was an issue, the conversation should have been before that, right? But they waited until I had to say, but I got to be courageous knowing, hey, if I come to you, some things might happen. You may decide not to be my friend anymore. You may attack me. You may start talking about me. And I have to say, I'm not afraid of that. You do what you got to do. But because of the fear that comes with these things, people become defensive, distant, and demanding. Does this sound like something you guys have been through? Something that you've heard? Something that maybe you've done? I used to be really bad about that. Every conversation was a defense. I would become defensive. I wanted to keep from being attacked. I had to realize, hey, they're not attacking me. Some people are actually trying to help me. Some people actually love me. Some people want to make me better. And that's where the whole thing about where God says, and he don't say it exactly like I'm going to, but what he says, look, shut up. Shut up and listen. Listen for a minute. I used to get so mad at Seth, and probably all my kids too, but with him, I would get so mad at him, and his sister is worse than he is. And I would look at him and I said, look, if you would just shut up for a minute and listen, you would realize that this would have been over a long time ago, but you won't shut up. You won't just shut up and listen. They wanted to defend themselves. They wanted to point the finger at somebody else. And I'm like, look, just shut up for a minute. And I envision God standing up here going, look, if you would just shut up for a minute, quit making excuses, I will tell you it's okay. We'll get through this. Let me show you the road to go. Let me show you how to get there. We got to learn to listen to what people are saying. We got to be courageous enough to take it. We got to be courageous enough to give it. In 1 John 4:18, he says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. See, it says love puts out fear. There is no fear in love. If I love somebody, I can't be afraid of losing them. If I love somebody, I've got to be more concerned of the damage that's going to occur in their life by continuing what they're doing than concerned about my feelings of losing them. Now, in today's society, I will tell you, if someone is committing a true sin and they're living in sin and you go and you talk to them about it, 9 times out of 10, I'm sorry to say this, they're not going to receive it and they're going to leave you. Why? Because they can find a church that is not going to tell them what they're doing is wrong. Sadly, but it's the truth. Sadly, it's the truth. You don't like what I have to say, and you can verify what I'm saying in the Word, and you don't like it, you can pick up your bags, you can walk out that door, you can go down the road, you can probably find another church that's going to say, oh, and that's not really what it means. It means this. You're justified in your behavior. Move on and sin. They may not say it quite that way, but that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. The Bible warns us of that happening. The Bible guarantees us it's going to happen, that people are out there every single day. I saw a meme the other day of these wolves standing around, and they were burning their sheath clothing, and he says, we don't need this anymore. We don't need to hide in sheep's clothing. We've already hired the people at the top. And it was a picture of the pastors at a church. We don't need to pretend anymore. We don't have to hide amongst them. We now control them. We're now shepherding the sheep. In our Bible study in 2 Peter, we just talked about this last Sunday, about the false teachers and about how they're out there and how Peter at this time is warning us of that things being out there. So that's a fear. If you're a pastor, if you're trying to start a church, you have to have that in your heart, in your mind, that this is going to happen, that if I choose to preach the truth, that you're going to get mad. There's no way around it. There's nobody sitting here. If I've never said anything that you did not like, raise your hand. Why ain't anybody raising your hand? None of us can raise your hand. I should have. If you've been at this church more than this Sunday, and even this Sunday, I should have said something, read a verse that contradicted with your life and you didn't like it. Otherwise, you need to ask me to step down. That's the truth. Yep. Yeah. Got to tell them. Yep. So we got to love without the fear. We got to say, look, I can live with the fear. I don't like it. Chris will tell you. Every time one of you guys get mad and leave, I whine and cry to Chris. I whine and whine to Crystal. I talk with Sean and say, man, this sucks. Because I don't like it any more than you do. But I have two choices to make. One is I can say, okay, guys, I'm going to change. Or I can say, I'm going to stand fast in what God called me to do, and He will take care of the rest. I'll tell you the honest truth. Some days I'm like, well, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that better. Maybe I should do it this way. And it doesn't work for me. God doesn't give me peace if I do it that way. God doesn't give you peace either. So if you want to get connected, if you want to continue to go deeper in your connection, you got to be courageous. What I'm telling you, and I've said this before, if you go back and watch some of the sermons at the very beginning, I've told you guys before, you are responsible for holding me accountable. I'm not only responsible for you, you're responsible for me. Be courageous enough to say, hey, Pastor, you said this. I don't understand. Did you really mean it that way? Is that really what the Word said? Did you really understand it? Hey, I saw you the other night, and that wasn't your wife you were having dinner with. What's going on? You're not going to see that, but let's say you do. Let's say I'm having a meeting with somebody. She knows about it, but I didn't tell Robert. Robert sees me. What should Robert do with that information? Robert shouldn't be getting on the phone. Robert shouldn't be putting it on Facebook. Robert should be doing what? He should ask me. I can tell you, Robert probably won't be doing that. Robert will be going. He'd be calling Chris, hey, come over here. I need your help. But that's just it. You should be strong enough in your relationship with me and your love for me. If you love me, you're going to do those things. You spank, for those that have ever spanked a child, you spank your child because you love them. You know it's going to hurt them. But you do it because you love them. Oh, I don't spank my child because I love them. No, you don't love them if you don't spank your child. No, you don't love them if you don't punish them. You do these things not because you enjoy doing it. You do it because you want to help them. You want them to learn. You want them to be better. You're supposed to do that with your brothers and sisters in Christ. You're supposed to want them to grow. You want to see them become better people. You want to see them walking in the light. You want to see them know that Christ is there for them. Not just see them enjoying their bath in sin. We talked about it in 2 Peter. It talks about how does it word it? the swine wallowing in its own, that got a bath and wallowing back in the mud again. Meaning you've been saved, but you're continuously playing in sin. How it doesn't work. And it also talks about, we kind of laughed about it. You ever heard the old saying, I've heard it more in the South anywhere, there's a special place in hell for them? Do you know that's scriptural? It literally is. Come Sunday nights, you would have found out. But on Sunday nights in 2 Peter, it literally says, there's the darkest place in hell for people. For people that deceive and lead people into hell. People that deceive and lead people into hell, there's a darkest place of hell is for them. So that saying there's a special place in hell for you, that's a reality. That's a reality. You got to be courageous. You got to say, look, I have no fear. My love for you outshines my fear. My love for you outshines my weakness. The second thing we have to be is we got to be considerate. So wait a minute, I got to be courageous and considerate? Yeah, that's the hard part about being a follower of Christ. That's the difference between a bully, right? A bully's not very considerate, are they? Look, I come to take your money, but hey, if you need some of it for lunch, you go ahead and keep a little bit of it, just give me the rest of it. That's being considerate. No, they're not considerate, are they? I don't care if you need lunch or not. Give me all of your money. Give me all of your money. Look over in Philippians with me. What's that? Yeah. I went to jail and got his neck broke. That's what he said. Right? Is that right? All right. Philippians 2, chapters 3, verse 4 says, do nothing out of selfish ambitions or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself, not looking to your own interest, but each of you, to the interest of the others. I'm going to tell you guys, and some of you are really going to struggle with what I'm about to say, but I'm going to tell you out of love. Remember, first thing I'm going to do is be courageous. I'm going to tell you the truth. The second thing I'm going to do is be considerate. I'm going to tell you out of love. The world does not evolve around you. It has been scientifically proven that the world does not evolve around you. Scientific. You want truth? Here's the proof. There's a big old glowing thing outside right now. That's what the earth is evolving around, not you. Scientifically proven. You're going to have to get over it. Biblically proven. The Bible just says, sorry guys, don't evolve around you. It wasn't created for it to evolve around you. It says that we are to do nothing for selfish ambitions or vain conceit. Everything we do should be out of love for someone else, not for what I can get out of it. A lot of times we do stuff out of what I can get out of it. How it benefits me, how it helps me, how it encourages me, how it makes me do stuff instead of how does it help you, how does it encourage you, how does it make you better. I will tell you right now, being a pastor, and Chris will tell you, and Sean from being on the core team, being overseers of the church is not benefiting me. The worry, the frustration, the gossip, the backbiting, the talking bad about, the hours of preparing, the hours of being here, all of that doesn't benefit me. It's for you. You realize that? It's for you. And what you do, you got to ask yourself, am I doing stuff for me or am I doing stuff for other people? Am I trying to benefit them? Am I trying to help them? Well, I go to work, and the reason why I go to work is to benefit me. Do you? Or do you go to work to benefit others? You want to be blessed by God, then what are you supposed to do? The Bible just says, look, don't worry about me. I'm supposed to be worried about others. So I work hard so I can take care of others. Some people say, yeah, I work hard so I take care of my kids, I take care of my wife, I take care of the church, I take care of people in my community, I do this. This is what I do. And I was like, oh, really? Are you ever hungry? I've never been hungry in a day of my life. God's always taking care of me. See, God says if we take care of others, He's going to take care of us. He reminds us constantly, hey, does the birds not eat? Do they not have shelter? Do they not have everything they need? Why are you worrying about it? Oh, I'm so worried about me, I don't care about you. I'm so worried about what I need, I don't care about what you need. God says, why? I've already got you. I've done this to you so that you can do this to them. Go do it. We got to be considerate. We got to help others. When we put others above us, God will take care of you. We just got to learn to remember that. Stop worrying so much about you and start worrying so much about your brother, about your neighbor, about the guy next door, about the guy sitting beside you right now, the guy sitting behind you, the guy sitting in front of you. Do they have what they need? Are they taken care of? Romans 15:1 says, we who are strong ought to bear with the failings of the weak and not pleasure ourselves. We ought to bear the failings of the weak. If somebody falls, what are we supposed to do? Pick them up. There's a meme out there all the time that says the only time a brother should be looking down is if they're reaching down to pick somebody back up. We should never look down on each other. If you're going through it, I'm going through it. If you're laughing about something, I should be happy. We should be going and feeling and knowing each other. You can only do that if you're connected, right? If I don't know something's going wrong, how can I help you? How can I feel it? How can I come along? How can I just be quiet and sit with you as the friends of Job did? How can I do those things if I don't even know? Well, I'm a private person. I don't like to let people know about my business. And then the next breath is, I don't know why nobody cares about me. Nobody knows. You're not connected. Remember, you're a private person. You want to be all alone. You don't want anybody around you. But see, when you become connected, then all of a sudden the people start to feel what you feel. They start to care about what you care about. And then they start to say, it's not about me, it's about you. That's why I do the things I do. And I get something out of it, right? Because now I get the pleasure of celebrating what God did in your life because I know about it. So I get to rejoice with you. But see, I have to be considerate enough to say I care, invested enough to get involved, and spiritually strong enough to pray along with you while you're going through what you're going through. You got to be courageous, you got to be courageous, you got to be considerate, and then you got to be constructive. Courageous, considerate, and then constructive. Look over in 1 Thessalonians for me. Chapter 5, verse 11. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 11. He says, therefore encourage one another and build each other up just in fact that you're doing. See, you got to build each other up, constructive. Do things with a purpose. What's the purpose of us being here together? To encourage, to lift up each other, to build each other up. Not to tear each other down, not to discourage, not to push people into the dirt, not to remind them of their failures, but to encourage them through their failures so that they can see their successes. Do you hear me? Encourage each other through their failures so they can see the successes that lie ahead of them. Focus on the things that happen. But you can't do that if we're not encouraging one another, but discouraging one another. How much connection are we going to continue to have? How much are they going to want to be around you? Now, I want to go back and say, look, we talked about being courageous, being able to talk to people about the truth, being considerate. Constructive means that we're going to tell people the truth. We're not going to just lie to them. And I've realized in Christians that Christians have lost, and of course, society has too, so that might be part of the reason, but it shouldn't be, because we're not supposed to be part of the world. So whatever society's doing should not be what Christians are doing, right? Hello, yeah? Whatever society's doing is not what we're supposed to be doing, right? So who cares if society says, I don't take criticism? Christians should say, according to the Word, I take criticism, right? But see, Christians don't know, because they're too much into the world today, that they don't identify what constructive criticism really is. See, Christians need to learn again about how to take constructive criticism. What's constructive criticism? It's to help you. It's to build you up. It's to correct a wrong. It is not criticism, which is to do what? Tear you down, destroy you, make you bad. So if a Christian is over here sinning, and I love you, and I care about you, and I come to you, how am I supposed to come to you? Loving, which is what? Constructive criticism. But in the Christian world, all we hear is, that church criticizes me. That church calls me out. That church does this. This church does that. That guy, he says that I can't do this. He's trying to tear me down. He's not loving me. When it's the opposite. Because I love you, I'm willing to give you constructive criticism. So why do we struggle with it? Because we're too busy being part of the world. When I'm part of the world, I see things through the eyes of the world. Do I not? When I'm part of the world, I hear things through the ears of the world. And before you know it, because I'm part of the world, I start speaking with the tongue of the world. The Bible says you're not supposed to be part of the world. You've been transformed by the renewing of your mind. You now are part of my world. And my world wants to be better. I want to have constructive criticism. I want my brothers talking to me, telling me what they think. When I make a decision, there's 3 people I've learned to go to now. Number one, wait a minute, let me back up a little bit. There's 3 people, meaning I've been talking to God, okay? So what I'm going to say is not going to include God, but I want you to understand that that's a given, that I'm talking to God, okay? So I'm talking about fleshly people walking the earth. There's 3 people I talk to when I'm about to make a decision about me, about what I want to do. The first person I talk to is my wife. Babe, what you think? I am. I'm an extremely intelligent person. Why do I talk to my wife first? Huh? It's going to affect her too, but there's an even better answer. Nope, there's even a better answer. Huh? Nope. Nope. Close. What does the Bible say that her job is? Why was she created? To be my helpmate. So it's her interest. She was created for me to help do what's best for me. Now, all those other things you said are very much true. It does affect her what I do. She blah, blah, blah. But her sole purpose is to take care of me. Her sole thing is to help me in my ministry, help me in my life, help me in my walk. So everything I do not only affects her, but she has a God-given spirit to help me make the right decisions and go where I need to go. So she's number one. I go to her first. What do you think? Then I go to whoever I get to first, but I still go to 2 other people. And so it's not one over the other. It's just whoever I get to. I go to Sean and I go to Chris. And I say, guys, what do you think? This week, I was making a decision of what I wanted to do. I talked to my wife many times before that. This week, I've had lunch with both of these gentlemen. And we discussed things. Some were just our normal, fun, stupid things. And some of it was serious. This is something I'm thinking about doing. I want to talk to you guys about it. I want your insight. Why? Because I know both of them will be honest with me. I know that Sean will tell me straight out how he feels about things. And then once we get past that, I'll say, well, what does the Bible say? No, I'm just kidding. But Sean will tell me. He will tell me what he feels. This is what I don't like it. Or I like it, whatever. Chris will be honest with me. So I go to them and say, hey, why? But I also know that I'll get things sometimes I don't want to hear. They'll disagree with me. I don't think that's a good idea. They're still my friends. They're still part of the ministry with me. Why? Because I want that constructive criticism. I want the other side of the story. What do you think about this? What is your opinion? Why? Because I believe that all three of these people are encouraging to me. I believe that they want to build me up. They don't want to tear me down. And I think that they'll keep doing just the fact that you'll keep doing. I trust them. That the Spirit that God has given them has given them that Spirit to do those things with me. So those are three people. What I encourage you is to make sure you have those people in your life. That you know that, hey, if I call them, they're going to tell me the truth. I may not like it, I may not want it, but I need it. And that's where I'm going, is where I need it. Because all of us can find that quote-unquote friend that's going to tell us to go on and party on. But you want the one that's going to say, hey, you know what, that's not a great idea. The road you're going on, we got to be constructive in the things we do. Try to build each other up. Try to help each other. Try to see each other succeed in the things that God has for them to do. Look over with me in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 15. He says, instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect a mature body of Him who is the head, that is Christ. Now, I want you to see something real quick with me. He says, that's not it. Oh, I like that one better, but we'll go to the other one. So do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. Now, I want you to see something really hard here. Chris had an idea. He said, I needed a pointer, and he might be right. I don't know. That's just one more thing for me to screw up with. But it says, according to their wants. Right? According to your friendship. What? What are you supposed to go and talk to them about? Their needs. Helpful for building others up according to their needs. See, that's where it gets hard. How do I go and build you up according to your needs if I'm not going to tell you the truth? See, that's why he starts out, don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths. Don't lie to each other. Don't sit there and tell each other, hey, I know the Bible says this, but you know what? The Bible was written a long, long, long time ago. And it doesn't apply to today. I will tell you, and we've talked about this last Sunday night, I think it applies to today more than it did than the day they wrote it. I really do, especially what Peter had to say. I'm like, you went through this? We're going through this right now. You got to be kidding me. I think it's more pertinent now. I think it's more needed now than it was when it was written. We're going through the exact same stuff that they warned us about, that said was going to happen. They're happening. He says, don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth. What's unwholesome talk? Anything that interferes with the Bible. Anything that interferes with the Spirit of God. Anything that's not true. And what is the truth? The Lord. Christ says, look, I'm the way, I am the truth. That's our truth. That's all we need to know. Anything else is a lie. Wholesomeness. Wholesomeness is truth. Don't let any untruths talk come out of your mouth. In other words, if you ever hear that old saying, if you got nothing good to say, keep your mouth shut? It's the same thing. If you can't tell someone the truth, it's almost better for you not to say anything. Except for the fact, we ain't going to go there. It's best that you don't say anything truth. But what is helpful for building others up according to their needs. See, we got to remember that. I'm going to tell you what you need, not what you want. I don't want a brother that's going to tell me what I want. I want a brother that's going to tell me what I need. I want a brother that's going to tell me on these. That it may benefit those who listen. Now, the problem is those who listen, the benefit that they want is the benefit that equals what they want it to do. You understand that? They want you to tell them it's okay. They want you to tell them that it's all right for them to go and sin. It's okay for them to go through that. Now, I don't want you guys to think that this is a church or that I believe that everybody sitting here is spotless and without sin, because none of us are. So don't think that I'm saying that. But I'm saying that if we actively are participating in a sin and we know, or we don't know, but we're actively participating, and someone comes and tells you, hey, you're actively participating in sin, this is what the Bible says, I love you, man, I really don't want you to do it, they have a choice to make. The reason why you're telling that is because that you're wanting to build them up and that you're wanting them to benefit from what you're saying. What's the benefit? The benefit is they get closer to God by removing that sin in their life. They get their relationship with Christ get stronger. They get God's presence more shining in their life, which increases their happiness, which increases their joy, which increases their production when it comes to their life here on earth. That's the benefits they're going to get. They're going to know how much you really love them, that you're willing to have that hard conversation with them. I only trust certain people, and the people that I trust are the ones that I know will tell me the truth, whether I like it or not. Believe it or not, my wife tells me the truth very often, whether I like it or not. She told me yesterday, I can't believe you're wearing that. I'm like, what do you mean? I wore it such and such day. Well, I didn't pay attention then, but I'm paying attention today. And don't you wear that again until I da-da-da-da-da. Did it benefit me? I thought it was fine. Still think it's fine. But her intent wasn't to tear me down. Her intent was, hey, it doesn't look right. You need to change. The fourth thing we have to do is we have to be candid. Now, I know some of you are like, I'm good at being candid. No, you're good at being rude. We need to learn to be candid. Look at Proverbs with me, chapter 24, verse 26. Did I change that on yours, Drew? Does it have 26? Okay. Proverbs 24, 26 says, an honest answer is like a kiss on the lips. And I know we talked that before. But another version of that says an honest answer is a sign of a true friendship. So we got to learn to be candid with each other. Straightforward. Don't beat around the bush. We ain't got time for that. Life's too short. I did a funeral yesterday for a 33-year-old man. Life is too short. We got too short to beat around the bush. You got to be honest. You got to be candid. An honest answer. Tell them the truth. How do you feel about it? What do you think about it? What do you think I should do? If you look over in Ephesians 4:15, it says, instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect a mature body of Him who is the head of Christ. See, what we need to do is we need to know that when someone's talking to us, that it comes from the heart. They have to know that it came from your heart, that you truly love them. He says, speaking the truth in love. They will know all things grow up unto Him who is the head, and that is Christ. See, there's three things that you got to do when you're being candid. One is let them know that it's coming from your heart. Man, I love you. I hate doing this. I don't want to have to do this. Second thing is timing. Knowing when to tell somebody. I probably have said this to you before, but one of the things I do is I hate confrontation, believe it or not. I hate having to do that part of the job. And so the first thing I do is I ask God, just like Christ did, please remove this from me, let somebody else do it. Preferably you. And sometimes God says, I'm glad you see that. It was intended for you to see. I got it. Don't worry about it. And a lot of times, and I've had this happen a lot, where people come up to me and say, you know what, I was struggling with this, but this is what I'm doing now. And I'll say, yeah, God told me and I was going to say something, but he told me to shut up. I'm glad you and he took care of it. And this has happened more times than I can count that God's done that. Sometimes God says, I'll go to God and say, God, you know, this is you brought this to my attention. I see this going. What do you want me to do about it? And God will say, I want you to go say something to him. And this is what I want you to say. And I have to find that time to say it. So I can, you know, as a pastor, I've got this pulpit. You guys have to listen to me, right? So right now, I can fix your problem. I can call you out and fix you right now. Is that good timing? No, it's terrible timing. Or I come up to you at a funeral and say, hey, I've noticed you've been sinning. I want to talk to you about your sin. Is that good timing? No. So I have to pick the right time. And that goes back to what I talked about earlier when I said, you know, Sean and I have talked about this before, about when I see something and I go and I talk to someone about it, and the first thing they do is start throwing stuff back at me. Is that good timing? Yeah, it's time. Okay, I'm going to receive mine of what you're telling me I'm doing wrong, and at another time I'm going to talk to you about what God has showed me that you're doing wrong. But right now ain't that right time. Because right now we're going to get into a fight because I'm defensive, and you're going to become defensive because I'm going to attack you. So timing is important. When is the right time to share with someone? And God will reveal that to you. He'll say, this is when you need to talk to them. Or he'll bring them to you, and he's done that to me many times. They'll be like, look, I'm struggling with this. I don't know what to do. And I'll say, well, I've noticed that. I've been praying about it. Here's what God's given me to talk to you about, and go through those answers with them. So first thing we got to do is make sure they know that you're coming to them out of heart, with your heart out of love, that you got proper timing, and then you got to be open to their feedback, what they have to say. That way they know it's out of love. So we got to be courageous, we got to be considerate, we got to be constructive, we got to be candid. And guys, this part right here, some of you are not going to like it at all, but you've got to be confidential. You've got to be confidential. They got to trust. You got to do things out of trust for each other. Some people struggle with that. Why? Why do some people struggle with that? Out of the confidentiality part. Right. So it's because Christians are still living in the world. So they're still thinking like the world, seeing like the world, hearing of the world, and speaking of the world. They haven't decided to do what the church was intended, what the body of church, what you as the members of the church to do, which is to live outside of this world. So confidentiality, trust. In Proverbs 11:13, he says, a gossip betrays a confidence, but a trustworthy person keeps a secret. See, someone that is silent, that validates trust. If I tell you something and you take it to your grave, I can trust you. If I say something and someone else comes up to you and says something and you don't talk about it, I can trust you. I have confidence in you. I will now come to you. That's going deeper in our connection. There's people that I know that I can go to and say anything to and know that it won't go anywhere else. There's people, sadly, that I know if I say anything to, everybody else here is going to know about it. So I don't tell them anything. I'm not connected to them in that way because the confidentiality is not there. The trust is not there. Gossip destroys trust. You want to understand if it's gossip or not? Here's very simple. If you're not part of the solution or the problem, then it's gossip. Pretty simple definition, right? If you're not part of the solution or you're part of the problem, then you're just gossiping. Then you're just gossiping. Ain't it interesting? Here's the Old Testament. Very long, long time ago. And he says, a gossip betrays confidence. Apparently they had the same issue. They had people that didn't know how to shut up. And you know what I'm learning? This is sad, but I'm going to tell you the truth, okay? Here's what I'm learning. It ain't always the women. Isn't that sad? There's guys that haven't realized that they're supposed to shut up. And they're just as loosey-goosey as the women is when it comes to their tongue. Oh, they love. Sounds like a turkey call. As soon as you tell them something, they go nuts. You're like, hey, don't go tell Joe over here or whatever, because they're going to go tell so-so and Susie over here. And once he tells Susie, then Susie's going to know. So now all the men and all the women and all the children now know, because they told Susie and JoJo's and Susie's little daughter, who is also just like them, and now all the kids know. So I can tell so-and-so something before service ends, and by the time service is over, somebody's going to come and ask me about that situation. And I'll be like, how in the world did that get around in this short period of time? Gossip destroys the confidence. It destroys the connection. You guys that have been here for a while, you know how much I love gossip. You also know that that is one of the things out of anything that goes on in the church that I'm extremely quick to jumping on. Why? Because I know it'll destroy the church. It'll destroy the connection we have with each other. It'll destroy the family that we have. If nobody feels they can trust you, then you'll be isolated. You'll be pushed out. They got to know. So if you're questioning if what I'm doing is gossip or not, ask yourself this. Am I part of solving the problem that they're going through? Am I part of the problem that they're going through? If neither of those apply to you, then shut up. I'll say it all nice and Christian. Please choose to be quiet. But some people can't understand that word, so I'm just going to say it. Shut up. Keep it to yourself. It's not necessary. We say that to our kids all the time. Are you part of the problem? Are you part of the solution? What are you going to do about it? Can you fix it? No, then shut up. Be quiet. Don't talk about it. It's ridiculous. Look how much energy you've wasted dealing with something that you have no business in. Well, so-and-so came and told me this. Well, so? Walk away. I don't care. If you're not trying to solve the problem, if you're not trying to, and you're not part of the problem looking for a solution, then be quiet. It's not yours. And tell people, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear the gossip. Don't drag me into it. Don't drag me into it. Some of us don't get dragged in, we run in. The Bible says, look, gossip is wrong. Gossip is bad. Look at Proverbs 16. Verse 28. It says, a perverse person stirs up conflict, and a gossip separates close friends. You know, another way to think of gossip is in a lot of people's mind, and is gossip is the same as murder, because you kill the relationship. You killed that relationship. You severed that bond. You've cut off that tie with each other. A perverse man stirs up dissension. A perverse man. What's a perverse man? Everybody's thinking perverted, right? But what's a perverse man? A liar. Someone evil. Someone is trying to cause trouble. He says, look, he stirs up dissension. What's dissension? Separation. Separate teams. Putting separate ways. You know, a football team has separate teams within the team, right? But if that whole team isn't on the same page, if the whole team isn't focused on their purpose, then they're no longer a team, are they? I remember the first time this concept hit Seth in his mind. If you guys know, if you follow me on Facebook or whatever, we're very proud parents of all of our kids, but especially the ones that play sports, because that's what I do. And I don't mean I'm more proud of them than the other ones. It just means I share because I've got that to share. You know, I need to figure out a way to share when Ellis makes straight A's, or you know, something, or when Arden cleans up after herself, something to show, hey, I'm proud of them too. Because I am. But what I'm saying is, you see a lot of stuff, especially this being Seth's senior year and his last year of high school football. You know, there's a bunch of stuff I put out there. But one of the things that Seth came to is we'd always talk after the game, and we've been doing that since he was 10 years old or 8 years old when he started, 8 years when he started football. We always talk after the game, and I always talk to him about, you know, what a good job you did or whatever. And it took a little while, but one of the things that I'd say, well, how do you think you did? Well, I did good. I did my job, whatever. And he'd be fine, regardless of the score, you know, and regardless of the score. And then finally it clicked. Something clicked on him that they are a team. And I said, well, how you did? He said, well, I did our job. And I said, well, I did my job. And I said, why are you upset? He goes, we lost. And I said, but you said you did your job. You should be happy. He said, but we lost. We're a team. We lost. It doesn't matter if I did good. That was my personal goal, but our goal didn't get met. We lost. So what I did meant nothing because we lost. And see, that's what we got to remember, is that if we don't want that dissension, we don't want people only focused on their part. They want to be focused on the intention. So what a perverse man does is he goes and he tries to separate and make pockets within the church. Make pockets within the family. Make pockets within relationships. How can I separate you guys from this group, from that group? And you know what's one of the tools that they love to use? It says right here, gossip. Oh, the middle school and high school love it, right? Majority of things that go on that separate people, that separate this clique from that clique, is not anything more than the gossip that gets spread between them. Oh, I don't know so-and-so, but I heard this, so I don't like him. I don't like her because I heard this. Don't know them, but they can't be part of our group because of this, because of that. See, gossip will separate close friends. If I start listening to you instead of talking to him, we may not be friends anymore. I'm sure that if Sean heard or believed and received all the things he heard about me, he probably wouldn't be here right now. Of people that have told him stuff that he knows isn't true. He knows me. But if he believes some of the things that some people have told him about me, then we probably wouldn't be friends anymore. Why are we still friends? Because Sean knows the difference between gossip. He knows me. He's my friend. He knows that I will talk to him. He knows he can talk to me. If I believed everything that people have said about some of you, we wouldn't be here together. Gossip will destroy friendship. Why? The confidence ain't there, right? If I tell you something, if I tell Sean something, and I know that Sean's going to go over here and tell Bob, if I wanted Bob to know, guess what I would have done? I would have went and told Bob. I wouldn't have told Sean. I don't need Sean to go to Bob. I can do that by myself. I went to Sean because I wanted to talk to Sean. I needed to talk to Sean. I wanted his advice. I wanted his guidance on it. Now that I find out he talked to Bob, you think I'm going to talk to Sean again? No. And then if Bob goes and says, well, I went and told Robert. Well, why'd you tell Robert? If I wanted Robert to know, what would I have done? I would have went and told Robert. I didn't want Robert to know. See how it works? Now I can't trust Sean. Now I can't trust Bob. Now I'm waiting to see what Robert's going to do. What should Robert do? Robert should come to me and say, hey, I've heard this stuff. I want to let you know. It ain't going no further than me. I'm stopping it. I'm the end of the road. Where'd you hear it, Robert? I heard it from Bob. Bob, what's going on? Well, I didn't know what to do, so I figured I'd tell Robert. Well, why didn't you come tell me? Well, I don't know. Well, I can't tell you stuff now. Now I go to Sean. Sean, you started this whole ruckus. What's up? So you got to learn not to talk. You got to understand that gossip will destroy relationships. And you would think after middle school and high school that most of us would figure that out. But it's in the world, and we're part of the world. We're not supposed to be, but this is how the world survives. This is how, if I want to climb the corporate ladder, this is how I'm going to get there. I'm going to get dirt on you. How am I going to get dirt? That's called gossip. I'm going to destroy you to make me look better. I'm going to destroy you to get what I want. It's all goes back to what I told you at the beginning of this whole thing. The world doesn't evolve around you. Gossip is just a tool you need, that you use to assure that you get what you want. Gossip is a selfish act. Nothing more. It serves no purpose than to satisfy you and to give you what you're desiring, which is to be part of something you're not supposed to be part of and to hurt somebody that you obviously don't love. Because if you love somebody, you wouldn't be trying to hurt them. So we got to be courageous. We got to be considerate, constructive, candid, confidential, trust. And the last thing we've got to be, if we want a true, hard connection with each other, is we got to be committed. We have to be committed. Look at Proverbs 17, verse 17. He says, "A friend loves all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity." A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born from adversity. I'll tell you, this verse means a lot to me because when I first started in the ministry, before I became a pastor, but when I first started in the ministry, some of you may know, some of you don't, I started out, and the way Sean and I know each other is I started out in the MC with Sean. He was already a full patch. I was already a nobody. I started out with a little circle patch, added up to 2 squares, ended up with the bottom rocker, and finally ended up with the top, with the full thing. So we spent time with each other. We knew each other. But when I decided, when God said, look, I need you to set that aside. I need you focusing on the church. I need this to be your priority. This was a step to get you where. And those who know me knows that I still interact with the motorcycle club. I still support them when they do the run in November for the blood sugar or juvenile diabetes. I still support that. I still talk to some of the guys. But one of the things that I learned with Sean particularly, he says, a friend loves all times. When I put that patch away, Sean did not stop loving me because I put that patch away. That's how I knew Sean was my friend. But then I also learned that he was my brother because he stayed with me through the adversity of going through that. He could have walked away and been justified. You put down the patch, we're no longer brothers. And believe it or not, guys, many did. Many did. But you know what I learned? They weren't my brothers. They weren't my brothers. I still have brothers in the club, don't get me wrong. I still know that I have friends that I could call at any time that are in that club and that they would be there for me no matter what. But I also know that there's people in that club that I can't call, that don't love me, that aren't my friends. See, brotherhood will be born during the adversity. That's how you move from I love each other to we're brothers, is when something happens and that person says, no matter what, I'm still there with you. I'm still there with you no matter what. As long as you're doing what God's calling you to do, I will still be with you. I will still go with you. I'll still walk with you. I'll still run with you. I'll still ride with you as long as you are following God. See, some of you may have the same story where you said, look, I had this person that was my friend and they said they loved me no matter what, and we were close, and then I got saved and said, look, I'm no longer part of this world, and guess what happened? That friendship ended. They weren't your brother or your sister because the adversity came. Conflicts come. Believe it or not, you may not find this to be true. Sean and I have argued about things. We've disagreed. I don't know if any of you know. Amber probably does. Drew definitely does. But Sean can yell. His voice can get loud. He's got a look on his face that he makes when you know that he's struggling with not being angry at this particular moment. I've seen it. I know what it looks like. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt what it looks like. I can almost draw it. If you had a guy in here who could draw, I could describe it and say, nope, those lips aren't right. Nope, those eyes ain't where they're supposed to be. This is what it looks like. He's still sitting here, right? Even through the adversity, the anger, the frustration, the disagreements, the brotherhood is still there. The love is still there. How many of you have been mad at your spouse and argued and fought? Yeah, well, if you marriage counseling, go to these two right here. Unless you're having a problem, because they know nothing about it. But see, a friend's going to love you no matter what. No matter where you're at, no matter what's happening. And when you go through things, when things are the struggle, that's how you're going to find out who the people that are truly, they're going to be committed. They're not going to leave. They're not going to leave your side. They're going to stay there no matter what. They're going to fight with you no matter what. No matter what. They know they can call you. I believe in my heart that Sean knows without a shadow of a doubt that no matter what happens, no matter what I'm wearing, that if he calls me, I'm there. If he needs me, I'm there. Some of you already know that. No matter what's going on, no matter what time it is, no matter if you need me to drive somewhere I don't want to go to pick up a bike on a trailer that I don't want to do, I'm going to show up. That's what being committed to a relationship. You guys know every Sunday that door's going to be open and that I'm going to be standing here and Chris is going to be there and Crystal's going to be there and Sean's going to be there. Why? We're committed to this church. More importantly, though, we're committed to you. We're committed to you. And even when you struggle and you go through adversity, guess what? We're still here. We don't go away. That's the commitment to the connection we have with you through Christ. Look at Proverbs 18, verse 24. One who has an unreliable friend soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. I don't know about you guys, but I've had my share of unreliable friends. I've had my share of people that have called me brother, people that have hugged my neck, of all walks and all different parts of life. This one says companions. I used to tell people I don't have many friends, but I have a lot of acquaintances. That's basically what this is saying. Just because you know a lot of people, just because a lot of people know who you are, that means absolutely nothing. I'd rather have one best friend than 1,000 acquaintances, than 10,000 companions. Because they will not be here when the rubber hits the road, but that friend will be out there with you, no matter what. There's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Sticks closer than your family. Sticks closer than anyone you know. That's the commitment to the relationships, commitment to Christ. So I'm going to ask you guys, are you being connected? Are you connected to each other? Are you connected to the church? Are you connected to Christ? Can someone look at you and say, yes, he's courageous, he's considerate, she's constructive, she's candid, she's confidential. I can say anything and know that nobody else will know what's going on. And they're committed to this relationship. See, the problem that we have with connection in the church is the same thing that we have as a connection or the commitment of marriage. The same problem that we have with connection and commitment at work or in a relationship is that we believe that we can always gain something else. We believe that if you're not meeting my needs, if you're not doing what I want you to do, then I'm going to go to somewhere else. Why is that? Simply because Christians are still part of this world. The divorce rate in churches is just as high, if not higher, than non-church people. The commitment to a marriage, to the promise you make to God, is no longer existent. The commitment you make to loving each other, to supporting each other, encouraging each other, being there beside each other is no longer existent. We don't care anymore. We have no commitments. And the only reason that a Christian would not have commitments, not be committed to a brother, not be committed to their wife, not be committed to their church, is if they're living in the world. Because the Bible tells us that we're supposed to be committed to each other as Christ is committed to us. That comes through loving each other. Not always going to be easy. We know that. Friends are going to hurt you. Friends are going to make you mad. Your wife, your husband is going to say something that hurt. They're going to do something that just is terrible in your mind. Are you committed to sticking it out? Oh, I left the church because so-and-so said something and I didn't like it. Really? That's the worst they did, was they said something you didn't like? Oh, I'm the pastor, he just, he preaches the word and sometimes he repeats himself simply because, somebody's not listening and I just want to hear it once. I don't want to keep hearing it. So that's why you're leaving? Yeah. Okay. No commitment. I can tell you from experience, commitment is hard. You get tired. You get frustrated. You get worried. But the difference between being committed and not committing is getting up every day and still fighting. If God puts you in it and you believe it, then God's going to leave you there. And He's going to be there with you and He's going to work it out with you. The whole connection started with the whole concept that we have to be connected to each other. God designed it that way. Then He designed the rules around that connection of how it's going to work. Because I can tell you right now, if I ask Sean, which I'm almost promise you he won't do for me, but if I ask him to come up here and take his knife and cut this cord for me, there's a reason he won't do it, right? What's that? It'll hurt him. How many times do we go and we try to disconnect from each other by just cutting the cord even though we know it's going to hurt somebody? See, this thing only works because this wire going from here is going through there, and it's got a protective coating over top of it that allows me to grab it and hold it. But if I keep bending it back and forth, what's going to happen? I may not get shocked, but it's going to get hurt. I'm doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. In a relationship, if you keep doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, you're eventually going to break that connection. You may still be plugged into the church. You may still be plugged into the relationship. And you still may be getting something out of it. But once you keep doing something that breaks that connection, even if you don't completely break or pull apart, eventually you're going to break it. And you're no longer going to receive anything from it. To me, it goes back to that old saying, you get what you put into it. In order for me to get anything from this church, in order for me to get anything from the relationship, in order for me to get anything from that power box, I have to first be willing to go and plug into it. You want anything to come out of anything that you're working on, whether it's a church, a relationship, work, you got to be willing to be plugged into it. You got to be willing to take a step to get into it. If you're not willing to take that step, then you're not going to receive the connection. We're going to go ahead and stand, and Sheila's going to get ready to lead us in a time of invitation. As you guys know, the altar is open for you. You can come pray. If you need someone to pray for you, we'll pray with you. But I'm going to ask you, are you connected? Have you connected to somebody here at the church? Is there that one person that no matter what, you know I can go to them and they're going to be honest, they're going to be courageous, they're going to be candid, they're going to do it out of love, and they're going to look out for me. And they're going to be confidential. I know I can tell them anything. If you don't have that person, maybe you need to be that person. Start with that. How can I be that person? Maybe part of it that you need to start with that whole connection thing is you need to be, number one, courageous enough to tell God what it is that you're struggling with. You need to be candid enough to say, God, this is my sin and I need to get rid of it. You got to say, God, I want to be part of something bigger than I am. And you're the only way I can get there. Maybe you're struggling with, how do I fit in? I want to be part of the church and I don't know what to do. You can talk to me. You can talk to Chris. You can talk women. You can talk, or anybody. You can talk to Crystal. You can talk to Sean. Say, hey, I want to be connected. How do I get more connected? Even if you're like, I don't know how to do it, I just want to do something. You might have received a little card from Tony. Tony came to me last week and he says, look, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to put runs together or rides together or lunches together, but I want to do it. And I was like, look, you come up with a date and a place, I'll help you with the rest. And he's like, I'm not leading. And I was like, we don't want you to lead. That's okay. You just facilitate, coordinate, and organize it. So even if you're like, I don't know how to do it, I've never done it, but God's called me to do something, it's on my heart, we'll help you through it. We'll mentor you. We'll coach you. That'll build that relationship. That'll build that connection too, so we can do more. We can do more together. So maybe you're in that situation and you need to talk to God. Say, God, please reveal to me what you want me to do, how you want me more connected in this church. Maybe there's somebody that God's given you in your life that you're supposed to be fully committed to and you haven't done that either. And you need to say, God, I need to commit myself to this relationship, this friendship. I need to be honest. I need to do this. I need to do that. Or maybe you're just one of those people that like to talk too much. And God's put on your heart that, hey, I'm one of those gossipers. And I need His strength to stay out of people's business. I need to be given encouragement to be able to deal with the things without having to tell people what I've heard. Maybe I need to be the wall that says, look, this stops with me. There'll be no more gossip. Wherever God's got you right now, this altar's for you, and we just ask that you come up and spend some time talking to God.